Hi everyone, Greg Sullivan here at JCETI and CE-5 Inside coming from Tokyo, Japan. And today we're talking about groups that don't meditate in contact work. This is a really interesting question. Is it improper to not meditate, or is it proper to meditate? I find that people, there are many groups that, let's say it's a rainy day, or many groups before they even go out in the field will do indoor gatherings as sort of an information session, an opinion sharing session or whatnot. And that can be a great primer to having more coherent field work for sure. In JCETI, we always, in our hundreds of events across the country, we have never not done a lecture or indoor meditation before going outside. Not to prime and front load this video, but it's an interesting question because in recent times there have been some people who've come out of our group and continued on their own, who were doing sort of sky watching and experienced results in our field work without really understanding the meditation element. And then kind of got used to the fact that, hey, we don't need meditation. We don't need to do anything to prepare for this spiritually. And that can be sort of, I think, a dangerous assumption. I like to use this video as a chance to kind of re-examine the foundation of the CE-5 contact protocols, and it's an interesting question just to put out there, a rhetorical question. Are groups that don't meditate in the wrong? Is that really CE-5 or not? Is it just a skywatch? I think, of course, Dr. Greer would have an opinion about that. So let's take a look at it in just a pros and cons element. What are the cons of a group going out into the field and not meditating? The first is that really, I think the CE-5, the essence of the CE-5 in a way is the meditation and the image training, the consciousness element of contact. Getting into that flow is what allows access to what was not accessible before, in a way. So the consciousness doorway to higher dimensional phenomenon is really a necessary thing to understand the essence of CE-5 contact, I believe. So without that, you're really opening yourself up to a lack of response from ETs, the loss of a chance to take any good videos or photos potentially, and staying in really a 3D mindset where it's just physical and a nuts and bolts approach to ET contact, and then you're missing so much of the kind of unseen element and the sixth sense element, which is sort of unfortunate. So without this, another con is without the meditation, larger contact events, or in reality, the kind of contact that everyone really wants, is less probable. The probability rate drops quite a bit when you are only looking for visible phenomenon. I often find that the energetic phenomenon leads into much more direct visual phenomenon because it's people are on the same page energetically, so to speak, and that allows you to experience this sort of resonant effect, and it's almost like a plane lifting off, where you hit that point where the wheels, the air, the lift, and the weight of the plane become canceled out by inertia, and all of a sudden, boom, you have the takeoff. It's the speed, the actual acceleration, the gas pedal is the meditation in a way. And without meditation, a deeper internal contact is very improbable and becomes a lot more difficult. So we've all experienced those downtimes, the times when things weren't flowing. It could have been because of bad weather, difficult conditions in the field, someone being very distracting, a child in the field or whatever. There's a million and one things that could distract the group's coherence and break the group's coherence. But we've all been there where it's tough and things are just not happening. So how do you get out of that? And how do you change the mood? We've had times when someone has driven in to the field site on a beach or something and just completely destroyed the vibe, and then boom, once they leave, a craft kind of zaps and puts us back right on back where we were in a split second. We have a craft that was always right in the nearby vicinity, and they do this huge flash bulb, and boom, we're back. We're all energized again and kind of back in dream time, so to speak, So it is, I've had many confirmations that it is this sort of energetic that we are tapping into in the field that allows contact to occur. Well, let's take a look on the other side. What are some pros of a group that didn't meditate? It could be potentially more understandable for beginners, and of course, myself included. When I first had my experience at JCETI in Mount Adams, I was able to see things without this long protocol or any protocol at all, just by being there in the field of dreams at JCETI. It's a rare experience, but and right next to me, I had a long-term visitor and also a younger staff member who were using their telepathy. And I was extremely skeptical. One person was actually putting me off to some degree. It was a strange balance of, I was having and really enjoying my direct experience for the first time, my Catalyst breakthrough, so to speak. But at the same time, there were elements that were not only unrecognizable and unable for me to understand, but unpalatable for me as well. So this could, a group without meditation, we avoid the pitfalls of superstition, especially here in Japan. A lot of times meditation might be misconstrued to be an inroad to a cult, and they had the big sarin gas attack with the Om cult, Asahara Shoko, the leader, so one of their inroads was yoga and also meditation. So there is a lot of stigma around meditation, especially here, believe it or not, with Buddhism and religious stigma too. People would rather have a sort of unbiased Western spiritual tradition instead of that, believe it or not. So, and ironically, the lack of meditation could potentially, in some cases, keep the group more coherent. And you introduce the tools, people get to take a look at the night vision scope, and it could keep a more lighter, superficial element if you needed to do that for certain visitors. I found that trying to roll out the CTS by brute force was a way to break through in some regards, but I had to recalculate and rebalance my approach in the beginning of JCETI because it was quickly becoming obvious that the technique was advanced and people were not ready for that. So even by practicing indoors, once we got outdoors, just the fact that the stars were so beautiful or the energy of the ships was actually distracting them, the actual meditation itself was sort of like a non sequitur. It was sort of like an additional bonus. So when you do the meditation can be a factor. It's an interesting debate to have. What are your opinions? Tell me in the comments below. So if I had to advise others, one thing we were guided to use is, before the meditation or any image training, is we had the solfeggio tones. I was originally a sound engineer and musician, so using the tones and crystal bowls or Tibetan bowls in the field is a great way to, in the dark, our ears become more sensitive. So anything to get that group's vibration on the same page is a great thing. I would walk around the group with the bowl, rigging the bowl, and also another approach is to use a lighter, shorter version of the CTS training. There's Deb Warren's Quick and Dirty CTS, which we benefited from so much. She did that for me at JCETI Ranch one time back in the day, and we translated that into Japanese. So that's the one where instead of going all the way outside the Milky Way galaxy, which requires a lot more time, to try and do that unguided is difficult, to say the least, at first. So going up above the Earth itself and then coming right back down, you can use Google Earth as a image reference for people, and also in a lecture or a presentation, you could show people Google Earth. You could pass around even just a tablet with the app open to give people a reference right then and there and look at your site from above. So the meditation that goes up, the group leaves their field, goes up and right outside the Earth's atmosphere, looking down at their site, and then comes back, is oftentimes plenty. That's giving you the perspective. You're sharing the perspective of the ships, of the ETs, and inviting them in, and then showing them where your group is. Okay, this was talking about groups that meditate or don't meditate. What's the difference, pros and cons. Thanks, coming again at you, CE-5 Inside, and we'll see you next time.